Family dynamics can be difficult. Have you ever been in a position where your family pits you against your spouse? I know that you have. And today, we're gonna unpack it in another episode of Am I Overreacting? Welcome to the Mental Health Janitors, where we help you clean up the mess in your head. I'm your host, Sergeant Q, and with me, as always, Doc Jess.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Okay, so we're going to talk about when family pits you against your spouse. This has happened to me multiple times. I'm sure it's happened to you in your life, and I'm sure it probably happens to all of us at some point. So we're going to talk about what happened with this situation and then what we can learn and how we can avoid those things or navigate successfully through it. But first, you know me. I love scrolling the internet, I shouldn't say scrolling, I should say trolling the internet, because that's really what I love. I love to find these videos of people behaving badly and then getting lumped up. I love it. They call it instant karma or, get the day that you deserve, whatever. I love these videos of people acting out of pocket and then getting brought to reality real quick. So I'm going to show you this video and we're going to put it up on the screen, and you at home are going to watch exactly as Jess.
I have not seen the video.
No, she has not seen the video. And here we go. This is one of my new favorites. Bye.
Oh, why would I not like that?
I don't know, because you're a mom and you watch this kid get
If my
launched
kid
off.
was messing with a grown-up like that, I would let that grown-up throw my kid that way.
So for me, I saw this and I was cracking up. I had to watch it multiple times too. Well, that kid, he gets sailed. So you know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of being in Cambodia, and they have the dikes that go up high, these roads, they're called dikes that are up high. And then there's rice paddies down below. So you're about 3 to 4 foot down. And when he launches that kid into the field, it's not just out, but it is down 3 to 4 feet.
And he was fine.
Sure.
That's why I laughed. He was fine. He just got launched a little bit. He's messing with an adult. You put your hands on me, I'm putting my hands on you.
So I'm cracking up, right? And I'm like, okay, what is actually happening? Because they're speaking Hindi, and so you can't understand. So I looked through subtitles and I looked through the different internet comments, and and then I found the original video, which is much longer. Here's what happens. This guy is a famous YouTuber in India, and he's riding his motorcycle through capturing content, because that's what he does. He's capturing content. And these local kids notice him. And they're like, oh, hey, they know him. They're chasing after him, this and that. So he kind of stops. He's like, hey, how you guys doing, this and that? And it really quickly turns from them having fun and saying, oh, it's so cool to meet you, to, hey, give us some money. He's like, well, I'm not giving you money. He's like, well, give us something. Give us a camera. Give us this, give us this, give us this. And you can watch the kids start to grab his stuff and take his camera equipment and take his stuff. And he's like, no. He's like pushing him back. And then the kids want to fight him.
Yeah.
It's a band of kids, right? So, but they're trying to take on an adult. The kids aren't going to win. Right? You're not going to win. But the littlest one had the most ferocity.
Yes.
And what you don't see is earlier, he snatches the guy's key out of his motorcycle and takes off running, and then comes back and tries to hold the keys hostage.
Yeah.
That's when he snatched him up, is because he took the keys back and launched the kid into the bush. So that is...
Eated him.
That is the setup for this video.
And you gave me a little bit of content before I watched it, so I knew it wasn't just some random adult throwing a kid in the bushes.
Right. I had to give you...
I'm not an advocate for that, but I kind of knew what was already going on, and so I was prepared that the kids were behaving badly.
Yeah, they were. Think about how that mob mentality is. If it was one kid or two kids, it would not have gotten that way. But the energy just fed off of each other. And we've talked about this in other episodes. This is where you used to see this all the time after NFL games. After a Super Bowl championship, then the winning team would kind of burn down their city, which was just crazy. because everybody would come out, they'd be excited, and they get into this mob mentality where it feels like they have anonymity because they're part of the group. And so they're not going to be held responsible for things. It's a psychological issue. So what cities have started doing is saying, hey, the next day after a win, we're going to have this huge parade and give people an outlet for that energy. And that's helped cut down on it a lot. But that used to see that all the time, Super Bowls, where they'd be lighting cars on fire and, burning dumpsters down the road because they're having fun, but it's malicious.
Destruction.
Yes,
Destructive.
totally destructive.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
And so you saw that happen
Yeah.
right there with these kids. And it kind of feeds into this entitlement mentality.
Yeah.
And you've traveled overseas. You see this a little bit with being in these foreign countries where the kids really don't have anything, but there's been such an American influence that it becomes this sense of entitlement.
Yeah. Because they've watched influencers, obviously, and they've been infiltrated by that mentality of entitlement.
Sure. They've been conditioned that, they see somebody who is famous or they see somebody who is an American, then they're automatically going to give them stuff. And there are YouTubers out there that do this type of work where they go out and they do feeding programs and I do this kind of work. But there is an entitlement mentality to it. And I'll never forget the first time, it was probably 15 years ago. I was working in Haiti. I'd worked in Haiti after the earthquake for dozens of years. Working in Haiti, we went to this village kind of on the outskirts of Cité Soleil. It's kind of more of the country area. And one of the churches that was there during the earthquake had been damaged. And so we had to demolish it. And we're going to clear this other area and build a new one. Since I know how to drive heavy equipment, I was there with the Bobcat. And so I'm driving this Bobcat through the city. Bobcat goes like 7 miles an hour, max speed. Right? And I'm driving this thing through, but everybody's giving me a wide berth because, I could just pick their car up and flip it, or bus or whatever. But it took me a couple of hours to get to where I was going, finally get there, roll up, crack the hatch, because I'm air conditioned cab, crack the hatch and I get out and I'm like, and I see these 2 or 3 kids running around. And Bert Fields, you've met Bert. Bert was there. He rolled up in a van a few minutes later. And these kids come up and they're like, give me my money. Give me my money. Where's my money? I'm like, what are you talking about? But they'd been so conditioned that whenever Americans came, they just gave free handouts all the time. That's not why I was there. I was there to physically build a church building. And I was there to clear the land and level it out and get the foundation ready. But that was the mentality of these kids. And that's not their fault. They become a product of their environment.
When they're adults, it'll be their fault.
Yes.
They'll have to choose what to do with it. But yeah, as kids, they are a product of their environment.
Now, we see this even in America, this mob mentality, this people behaving badly, this entitlement where they feel like they can go do something if they're in a group and not get any consequences. In America, it's called a flash rob, where all these kids, they won't even really know each other. They'll just get on these Discords or get on these different social media channels and say, hey, we're going to hit this convenience store. Here's the address. Here's the time. And 100 kids will show up. And everybody will just run right in, take as much stuff as they can get in their pockets, in their backpacks, and run out. And the whole thing is less than 5 minutes. They're called flash robs. And this has become wildly popular now, where these kids do it for fun, that adrenaline rush. What are you getting? $17 worth of Red Bull and Snickers, and you're going to catch a felony over this thing? Strong arm robbery?
Well, yeah, the consequences aren't there anymore. So they're not afraid to do it.
So we see this mentality that growing up as a kid, you would never, there were robberies that happened. It was like 1 guy or 2 guys.
Yeah.
Not 100 kids hitting a little convenience store and clearing everything out.
Because it's not like a convenience store is like a huge multi-million-dollar business that could afford something like that.
Most of these little gas stations, they're a chain, but they're run by independent owners.
Yeah.
They're franchised.
Yeah.
So it'd be like you buying a franchise.
Yep.
And so you own 1 or 2 of these things. That's your livelihood. And usually you're working there, your spouse is working there, your kids are working there, the whole family's working there, cousins. That's how that
Yeah.
operates.
Yeah.
There's a lot of businesses that operate that franchise model.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's really sad to see those guys get hit. So, Jess, we see these kids behaving badly. And as a parent, you don't want this to be one of your kids. And every time there's a news story about some kid robbing somebody and then getting killed or getting hurt, the parents are always like, he was such a good kid. And we all kind of laugh about that. But parents, we want our kids to be good. We don't want them to be hoodlums and going out causing trouble and doing stuff like this. So as a counselor who focuses on families, what are some things that you can put in place to help ensure that your kids don't end up in one of these flash robs and possibly getting killed?
I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is raising them in an environment where they understand consequences and rewards. So this whole generations upon generations coming up, where everybody gets a trophy or there's the consequence doesn't meet the action, right? It's not doing any justice or good for these generations coming up. And that's why they're dumber, less work ethic. That's not my opinion. That's just what statistics are showing.
Right.
And so bring it back to, we don't have to have the pendulum so far that it used to be where, I'm not saying go out and beat your kids when they make a mistake. However, having clearly communicated expectations of what our home is going to look like, what certain behaviors look like. Remember the mantra, all feelings are welcome, not all behaviors. And so teaching our children how to be able to emotionally regulate and have consequences when certain behaviors arise is natural and good and constructive for children as their brains are developing. Like your human growth and development in your brains is so important different stages of your life. As you're learning and growing and your brain is developing, you have to learn those concepts. If you don't learn those concepts, then later on you don't understand the concept of consequences.
So what's one example that you can give of what that looks like?
Sure. I mean, like in my house, we don't count to 3 when the kids are little because it's teaching our kids delayed disobedience. So across the board, it's you listen the first time, every time, and eventually we build up to with a happy heart. Okay. We can't force them to have a happy heart, but we can't force them to listen the first time, every time either. But the happy heart comes along on the back end, full circle, if you do this properly. So what this looks like is in those training years, 1 to 4, you instill in your 1 to 4-year-old, you listen the first time, every time. There's no other option. There's a consequence every single time if you don't. 18-month-old might not fully understand the concept of no yet, right? Both of my girls were speaking almost full sentences by the age of 2, and they fully understood what no meant. And so if I said no and they did it anyways, there was a consequence every single time. There were stages when they were 2 and about 4 where both of my girls got 5 to 10 spankings, swats on the butt a day. And it's because I had to follow through with those consequences because then they'd be confused at like, sometimes mommy spanks me when I disobey and sometimes she doesn't. So when it causes confusion in kids. And so I'm not an advocate for everybody to spank. If you have anger issues, if you have abuse in your background, we'll talk offline and there's other suggestions for that. But I didn't have that problem. I have never spanked my kids out of anger. It has always been very structured and in a healthy way. And you can interview them. They say now that they're older, that's one reason why they're such good kids because they had that structure and discipline. Anyways, side note. So as they get older, right? So by the time they're 4, my kids, 4 or 5, they know the standard is that you listen the first time, every time. And eventually they see how well that works with the family and we all work well together. Then it ends up being a happy heart that they listen the first time, every time. So then you fast forward to when my youngest, per se, like screen time needs to be monitored. And so they have a certain allotment of screen time. We have a no talking back policy in our house. You don't talk back. It doesn't mean you can't have a voice and ask questions later, but there's a time and a place to ask those questions with reverence and respect. So if I gave her an extra half an hour for her screen time because she swept and mopped the dining room and kitchen for me, and I forgot because I have traumatic brain injury and PTSD, and the timer goes off and I say, babe, time to get off your screens. We need to go do this. a lot of kids would say, no, mom, you told me I could have 30 extra minutes, right? And some parents don't think, but just to make it very, very clear, that's talking back in my house. And so what they do is they close their screens and yes, mom, and they put it away and they come do what I've asked them to do. And then they say, is this an okay time, mom, to talk about the screens? And I say, sure, baby, what's up? Well, I swept and mopped the kitchen and dining room to get an extra 30 minutes. And I was wondering if something changed. And I say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for bringing that up to me in a respectful way. And so you get an extra hour, right? Because it wasn't the moment to say, no, mom, you told me an extra 30 minutes, because that blurs the lines of talking back, whether you think it is or not. Some kids say, oh, what? You're not allowed to negotiate with your parents? That's not negotiating, that's talking back. And so that's where things get blurred and kids get confused where the boundary is, where it's not. And that's when chaos starts to erode. So that would be an example of consequences and still creating a safe place for your kids to ask questions and to have a voice and to talk. I'm not saying listen blindly all the time and never ask questions. We've created a structure and a safe place for them to ask that question after they've first been obedient.
It's a great example.
Is that
Yeah,
okay?
perfect. All right, well, let's get into our story.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, that was a
Here we go.
long-winded answer.
They usually are.
By taking a poll. Can we take a poll? Who wants Jess more on the show and who wants Aaron more on the show?
Oh, we all know. This one, oh, I felt this one. I was like, yes, 100%. It's funny because some of my family's going to be watching this. And so, yeah.
They're going to be like, is it me?
If you think it's you, it is you. So am I overreacting for cutting my family off after they came out against my wife of 10 years? My wife is having a 40th birthday party, and we have a limited amount of space. So we started by inviting close family and their partners. Made clear in the invites that it was a tight space. So could people confirm if they were coming? My sister split up with her partner who was down to attend. So when he was removed, we invited another family member that initially was not on the list. So get it? So
Yep.
The one family member had a spouse or
A plus one.
plus one. That person gone. So the couple invites another family member to attend because there's one open seat. Great. Now my sister, without checking, adds a person that no one knows, a new friend. So my wife drops her a polite message and says, sorry, we've tried to keep this list to family and their partners, and this friend couldn't attend. My mom and sister and other sister all then declined the invite to the party. Bunch of catty broads over here. Okay.
I will add that if it was brothers, it wouldn't have happened that way.
No.
No.
No. 100% no.
No. Yes.
Guys don't operate like that.
They don't operate like
don't
that.
operate
They don't
like that.
They can be gossipers, but they don't gossip as much. And that's what I'm assuming that's what happened. Sister called other sister called mom, and they're riling each other up, and that's just what gossip does.
Yes.
And
it's why the Bible talks against it all the time.
yeah, and it's literally says the bitterness and resentment builds, and it affects everyone around you. That's literally what it says. So keep going.
Here we go. I go over to my mom's house, and she basically goes on an aggressive rant about my wife, how we parent, etc., and how she hasn't liked either of these things for the last 10 years. So obviously, mom has got some resentment that she's built up over this time and decides this is the right time to put it out there.
Yeah, and that's what unhealthy people do is they build up and build up and build up, and instead of in a loving but yet assertive way, dealing with things as they arise.
And this is something that I think guys do better than women, is if there's an issue, we'll deal with the one issue. And if there's a second issue, then we'll deal with that one. But I see women try to bundle all these issues up and deal with all of them together as if they're one.
Yeah.
It's like a bundle deal at Christmas.
Sure. I would just challenge that. I think it depends on the relationship. I see a lot of men build in their marriage.
Oh, sure.
Because they're either wanting to avoid conflict or don't know how to do it, and then they, in an unhealthy way, build and build and build, and then they explode. And that happens quite a bit in a marriage relationship. But I could see what you're saying, that women are a bit more, if we're just talking like generally, they're a bit more prone to that resentment and bitterness piece.
Well, I was thinking more of, if I've got an issue with a guy, like I can just talk about that one issue and we're not going to bring 10 other things into it. But if I'm talking about an issue with a female, she's going to bring up that issue and then 10 other things that are somehow kind of related in some way to that. Or even not, just, oh, well, you always do this type of stuff. Here's 10 other examples. It's like, yeah, but we're dealing with this one issue. That's more of what I'm talking about. My experience is with, if I'm dealing with an issue with a guy, like we can handle the one thing and just stay focused on solving that. It's much more difficult for me to have those constructive conversations with women. And 90% of my leadership in my company are women. So I've really had to get them to hyper focus on, well, let's just deal with this one issue first. I know this person's done all these other things and we can deal with those later, but let's deal with this one thing first and try and segment this, because when you just start swirling around that toilet bowl at that point and you can't solve anything. That's just been my experience.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so back to our story.
Yes.
So he goes to his mom's and she complains about all these things. She then says that my wife is controlling and manipulative, basically puts me in a position to choose a side. So I've now walked away from all of them. You can't just blow up like that about me and my wife and think that it's going to be okay. But I have some doubts. Have I overreacted?
I think it's just a very, from his side and what we've read so far, I'm seeing toxic, dysfunctional family traits that feed into each other and create big problems. Now, could he come alongside and say, hey, you have some grievances. I care about those. And there's a time and a place to unpack these things in a healthy way. This is not it. I'm willing to come to the table maybe with a third party to unpack some of these if you're willing to do it in a healthy way. Because that's mom, it's sisters, they're important to you. And you set the tone with what you'll tolerate and what you won't. And you'll leave your wife out of it. She won't. You protect her at all costs.
I would say that your family was important to you at one time. But when you get married, it says you leave all of that behind and you become one with your spouse.
Yes.
And so for me, and I've been in this situation, currently in this situation. For me, it's like, no, I distance myself from them because they don't operate by the same set of rules that I do. They don't value the same things I do. And I'm not going to let them disrespect my wife. So I have cut them off. I just said, look, I keep you at a safe distance. Like, you're cool, whatever, but I'm not trying to hang out with you. I'm not trying to spend time with you. I'm not trying to plan things with you. And so I've done this. I've created that space. And for me, it's not worth the effort to try and build any relationship there because the other party is unwilling to see their fault in it.
That's where it comes down to. Whether it's a family by blood or somebody that's been in your life, I think relationships are really important and they're hard. And I think if this was the first blow up, because it sounds like maybe,
You're right. I think this was the first one. It sounds like.
if it's the first blow up, it sounds like maybe it was. I think that there's value in presenting it and giving people the benefit of the doubt to make the right choice, to come to the table in a healthy way and discuss some things in a healthy way and try to learn from it, grow from it, overcome from it so they can build together. I think some people are willing to do that because the sisterhood and the mom thing, that's a learned behavior. And yeah, sure, 9 out of 10 people are going to continue to repeat that dysfunctional cycle, but I've seen the 1 out of 10 who say, you know what? Yeah, that was wrong. Let's figure out how to do this the right way and have those awkward sit downs and conversations and overcome this. And I believe as a Christian, God is a God of reconciliation. And so I think if it's a pattern like you're describing of mistreating wife and disrespecting wife and absolutely distance, because you can't force people to come to the table, have humility, and want to work through things in a healthy way. And you have to, the Bible says, don't throw your pearls to swine. It's not just for, it's for everybody. The Bible also says that the Lord didn't come to bring peace, but to separate, families, pretty
Yes.
much what it says. And so if you are claiming to be a follower of Christ, which with us and our families, right? Then we should be able to come to the table with a third party who is outside of the family to say, hey, let's help each other understand what's going on. Because there might be some things that the wife could be reflecting on, being like, okay, I could see how that might have come across controlling later on when sisters and mom aren't tag teaming and being bullies. Okay. But we all have to have the mindset of, if there's something that if I have presented myself, because Billy and I have been through this with family members,
Right.
okay? There have been things along the way that I could have done better. Now, sometimes the treatment of me was really, really hard. And there's always something that I probably could have responded better or done better, and I need to, as a follower of Christ and a counselor, and to be a person who acts what I speak and what I teach, I have to be able to come to that table and say, I want to hear your heart. I want to hear where you feel like I'm being controlling, because that's not my intention. I don't want to be that way. And if it's just bitterness and resentment, and it come to them like that, a lot of the times people are going to say, oh gosh, I was kind of rude to me. I'm sorry. And it could be just a bump in the road as you guys learn and grow together. However, if it is a pattern and you've tried that, honestly tried that, and they refuse to conform to healthier standards, which a lot of dysfunctional families will not do because it's ingrained in them, and they have to choose somebody. So the dysfunctional family is operating in their circus. Somebody healthy comes in and they're like, this is weird, we got to blame somebody, and
Right.
it's that person. And so it is very complicated.
For me, I look at it, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, is the amount of time and energy that I'm going to put into fixing this thing, is it really going to add that much more value to my life? Because I have a limited amount of time and energy to invest in people and relationships. And I look at that and say, is that worth my investment? No. Okay, I'm going to invest my time and energy somewhere else.
And what I'll challenge you there is, and maybe you're thinking of something. So yes, when it's a habitual thing that you're dealing with, but just between us and this audience, we have been through things that have been really hard, and we've fought. Our families have fought, and we all came to the table and have such an incredible relationship now because we all came humbly. We listened, we heard, we got through those awkward stages of learning and growing, and we're incredibly close now.
Yes, and the juice was worth the squeeze.
Okay,
Is my
that's what you're
point,
saying,
right?
okay.
Is it worth it? I look at this very logically and I say, is rebuilding this relationship with this person or with these people, is it going to add an more value to my life than the energy that I'm putting in? Because some people
Okay.
just suck the energy right out of you.
Yes.
And so that I look at this and I look at this non-emotionally. I look at it very logically and think, if I repaired this relationship to the point where it was healthy, how much time and energy would that take? And would that add enough value to my life? Or would I take that same time and energy and invest it in this other relationship or this other situation and get more reward? So I look at it through almost like a business lens.
Yeah.
If I've got
You're
two
such a
product
dude.
lines.
You're such a guy that the guys aren't as relational.
No.
No. Yeah.
It's very
Very
cut and
interesting.
dry. It's like, look, is the time and energy I'm going to spend making this thing healthy, is that going to be worth it?
Yeah.
Versus this other one. So it's kind of like when I prune my bonsai tree. And I've got these two different sprouts coming out, and one is kind of gnarled and messed up and unhealthy. And I could cut that one off knowing it's going to make the rest of the tree healthier. Because the time and energy it would take to fix that, get that to grow in the same pattern, do what everything else is doing, it's not going to be worth the time and energy, and it's going to suck energy from the rest of the plant because it's a limited amount of plant.
Yeah, that's different. Yes. I hear what you're saying now.
Yeah. So that's what I say. I say, is the juice worth the squeeze when it comes to some of these relationships? And that's something that every one of you have to decide on your own. and not out of emotion, not out of anger or bitterness, but logically sit down and think, is investing in this person or relationship, is it going to add enough value to my life to where it offsets it or not? Because I don't want to run a deficit in any relationship. You don't like that answer?
I don't like that answer.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And it's because at the end of the day, I realize how broken and dysfunctional people are because of their past and things like
Sure.
that. And though I'm not going to pour in more than you pour in. And so maybe that's where we're just misunderstanding each other. If you're going to come to the table, it might look different than what my pour in is because I'm at a different mental status and emotional status, because I'm a little healthier, because I've done the work. If I still see you putting in the effort and we're making progress, I'm not going to look at, is this going to bring value to me later? Because the value for me is that that person is growing and learning and they're going to be better for it.
Yeah. So if somebody's growing and learning, sure. I'm
Okay.
talking about people that aren't.
100%.
Jess, that is really great advice. And so everybody has to make that decision on their own. My advice is don't do it emotionally, do it logically. And if you need help from a professional, Jess has an amazing marriage class that's going to be coming up later in the fall. You guys can check that out. Or we have the giantslayerworkshop.com. If you go to giantslayerworkshop.com, there are two options there. One, you get a free ebook, and the second one is to sign up for the actual workshop. Either way you go, you're going to get an invitation to a private Giant Slayer teaching group that we do every single Sunday at 6 o'clock. It's 20 to 30 minutes long, low bar of entry, totally free. Come check it out. giantslayerworkshop.com. If you like what you see here, like, subscribe, share this stuff out, share it with your friends or your family that you're having beef with. No, don't do that. Too soon.
Too soon. Okay.
Because we like to do three things here: educate, empower, and encourage you on your mental health journey. So for the Mental Health Janitors, I'm Sergeant Q.
I'm Doc Jess.
And we're out.